it's Michelle and Sharon, and we're back with our podcast. One thing, we've had massively busy lives, and for various reasons, and so we've taken a bit longer to do another podcast than what we thought. But we've actually had some interesting developments, and we'll probably go through those in a little while. But one of the things we have noticed is that there's a relationship between gender-based violence and incest, and how a lot of it can be rooted into bullying.
Yes.
So we quite strongly felt that we really needed to do at least one podcast focusing on bullying.
Yes. It might end up being two.
Well, we never know.
Yes. we might end up having to stretch it to two. It's such a big subject.
Yeah.
And it stretches right across the world. So,
and different ways of handling it in different cultures as well. So, do you want to perhaps encapsulate why we're actually talking about bullying?
Okay.
Distill it instead of me waffling.
Yes. Okay. So I think probably the reason why we are talking about bullying is because we need to talk about why it links up to gender-based violence, because that's our passion.
Yes, definitely.
That's what we want to try and stop and prevent and help people with. And if we look at the people who perpetuate gender-based violence, they are bullies. They are bullies. Whether they be fathers in the home, uncles, brothers, cousins.
But even some, mums and this.
Yes.
Mums and
mothers, sisters, whoever they may be who are perpetuating these violent crimes, they themselves are bullies. So we have to look back on their lives and figure out how that started.
And do you remember when we did that interview on the radio, where he was? I loved that part because I really felt like I gained from the interview as well. In that he was saying that how early do we start addressing gender-based violence?
Yes.
And I think prompted by that, we've actually found an answer is really, really young. And
yes.
Part of that answer is also sorting out bullying.
Yes.
Addressing bullying early on.
And I think at the time, we didn't really say, let's address bullying very young. We said, let's address the way children treat each other.
Yeah, lack of compassion and empathy.
Yes. Let's talk about compassion. Let's talk about empathy. Let's talk about kindness to one another. Let's talk about accepting the differences that we all have. Just acceptance. Let's start with that. And the problem that we have initially is that if a parent was abused as a child, they perpetuate that abuse in most cases. We can talk about your piece of art where you talk about, I watched my father.
Yeah, which is a similar concept.
The twins had both had the same upbringing, and one chose to be an alcoholic, the other one chose to be a teetotaler. So you can have children that grow up and decide, I'm not putting my kids through that, and another one will just
be more reactive.
Be unable to change the way they are. So the problem is that most children who come from an abusive home will be the same. So that will just go through the generations. However, if the children of that abusive parent are caught up in a system where kindness and generosity of spirit and thoughtfulness and compassion and empathy are taught at school, they can see that life is different. It's not what everything is at home. It's not the same.
They have a comparison.
Yes, they can compare and see that life is different out there, and that it can be very pleasant. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is that we don't want to take all children away from home. We don't want to take them away from home, but perhaps that's where child services can step in and try and make their home life better. Try and adjust their parents' way of seeing things and try and fix things for them. If a child is desperately abused at home, they must come away. But some parents perhaps are a bit violent, and it can be changed. If a service steps in and sorts that out, it can change. Sometimes it's alcohol induced. So sometimes things can be changed, and it's the same with any bully. If you figure out what the problem is, perhaps a mother is being beaten by her husband. If we take the husband out of the equation, she perhaps won't beat her children anymore. So it can be a circle that we can fix. So I think we need to address the issues, because we need to as a society, we need to address bullying more aggressively than what we have been up to now.
Yeah.
It is a much bigger problem than what we realize. And the gender-based violence most likely stems from bullying in the home.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. That definitely seems the trend.
So that's why I thought we should start a short discussion, a short conversation on bullying. Maybe you can paint something.
Okay. Hi, this is actually a recording of me bullying Adam into interviewing. No, I've asked Adam. Adam came around. Well, Sharon and I were doing some filming, and he's on the way to go and do some lessons, aren't you? At
Yes,
A&L? Yeah. And you have an amazing dance career. Do you want to give us a little bit about your dance career? What's your most proudest moments?
There's quite a few. So I'd probably say when I became a world champion back in 2019, I believe it was, where we won the under 16 category in ballroom, and we also won the open category. So we were dancing against all different ages for that. And it was held at Disneyland Paris, which was quite a cool venue. But also along the way, there's been quite a few different things, like meeting famous people while I've been dancing at events, dancing with top dancers, having lessons with top dancers. So I wouldn't really say there's one to kind of pick out. It's a big mixture.
Right. And one of the reasons I wanted to... I've sort of collared, okay, I won't use the word bullying, I've collared Adam is because boys and dancing is a really difficult thing in the UK. I think I've seen it just in the time that I've been with it in the dance world, where so many boys leave dancing because of bullying. Now, you haven't done that,
No.
but you were explaining that your school was actually quite a good school.
Yeah, so I think my school's quite lucky, and obviously it could be different in different years depending on the people you've got around you, really. Just down to the fact of I was very lucky with my friends. They kind of understood what I did and even supported me, just down to the fact of like when I won the World Championship and all that sort of thing. They were very good with it. They dealt with it very well. But I have, like you said, I've heard of people giving up, people taking a step back, just down to the fact of people have picked on them just because of dancing really not being for boys, as people say. But I think that a big thing that has really helped with it is the promotion of Strictly. Obviously,
Yes.
It's been going since 2004, but especially recently in the past couple of years, I believe it's become quite a big programme on the TV with the backing of the BBC, where, again, I think they think, oh, it's actually quite cool. It's not necessarily all this like prancing around in glitter, high heels and all that sort of thing. It's actually quite a strict and fun thing to do. So two different ends of the spectrum which you can take, but it's not, like I say, all this prancing around, and a lot of people link it to being gay and all that sort of thing. But in actual fact, it's a mix.
Yeah.
And it's like real life, like football, rugby. There's always going to be...
It's similar demographic,
Yes,
I think.
Exactly. And I think that's people not understanding it. But like I say, my experience, I've been very lucky with the support of friends.
And so do you also think that part of, with the dance world, because ballroom in Latin is called dance sport,
Yes.
but I don't think many people know that. And I think it is a sport, even if you do have glitter.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really important. So I think viewing it as a sport, obviously that's something your friends have embraced.
Yes. Yeah.
And
yeah,
maybe we need to
massively.
change the view of dancing from that point of view as well.
Yeah, because this was a big conversation when we were in like coronavirus and the whole lockdown thing happened.
Yes.
And then this whole professional sporting thing came out. And the whole question was whether ballroom and Latin dancing was a sport or whether it was an
Art form, yes. And
And
that changed the rules, didn't it? As to which
massively.
ones apply.
Yeah, and the whole thing really is I think it's both. Like you say, you've got the sporting aspect. Like I was having a conversation maybe a year ago now with an old professional, and they said however many years ago you could have danced 5 dances straight off with no physical training. Whereas nowadays, the way that dancing has gone, both ballroom and Latin, is it's actually a very physical thing as well nowadays. So you have to keep your fitness to a certain level to be able to achieve what you want to with it, rather than just say prancing or just kind of going around the floor. To actually control everything and stretch everything, you need to have that control throughout the body. So it's a very valid point of whether it is an art form or whether it's a sport, even though you've got the glitter, the sparkles, the different outfits, whether it's chest open or high neck. And even for the girls where they got the dresses long, short, it's still an art form as well as a sport. Again, going back to the football and rugby, it demands the same sort of fitness levels. Obviously, it's a different kind of fitness to be able to hold your arms up,
Yes.
use your body a bit more, rather than a sudden outburst of power. But it's still a very valid point of, yes, it is a sport, even though you're wearing something slightly different rather than a sports top and some jogging bottoms.
Well, I think you're very fortunate. I think we were talking about the fact that we just know boys that have left. And I also think it's really interesting that obviously your parents are very amazing parents, because
Yeah.
James, your brother, has got army ambitions, hasn't he?
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, that just from bringing up 2 boys, that's quite a lot to handle. And your parents have obviously done very well. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Now you can go off your training. Thank you.